Hey, everybody. Thank you all for your continued support of Zenny62 on YouTube. It is my proud pleasure to present my good friend, the Czar of Omicron.
Zenny, I always get a wonderful title boost whenever I'm with you.
I love that.
That's a pretty good one. I don't think we can top that one. I always get a wonderful title boost whenever I'm with you.
And I love that. It bears hearing it twice. Vice President of Marketing and Public Relations, my longtime friend, David Glanzer, which I can now say since we've known each other since, 2009, right?
Wow, yeah.
Yeah.
Isn't that remarkable?
It is. Yeah, it really is. And seen a lot of great things happen in popular culture, of which you have been at the forefront of, and in a sense a steward of, and on that, and in memory of the late John Rogers, who has to be credited as well. Where are we with Comic-Con in the middle of? Are we still in the pandemic? It feels like we are to me. I don't know.
I think we are. It's interesting when things started happening in 2020. We had been planning for an in-person show, but we just discovered we couldn't do it. So I think we were probably one of the first fan conventions to actually go online. And now that things seem to be brightening up a bit, fingers crossed, we may be one of the last conventions to go online. But it was so much goes into planning. So much goes into planning so early on that it made sense to go ahead and try another at-home or online version, and then hopefully. Everybody will have a great time. And then next year in 2022, we'll all be able to see each other in person like we used to.
What about November coming up? How is that shaping up?
That's coming along really great. It's kind of sticking our toe back into the pond of public shows. I think we really missed the community, and that's why we're doing the at-home versions of Comic-Con. But when things seemed to open up a lot faster than we had anticipated, we looked for a date that could accommodate, a smaller show, but a date that would allow us some move in and move out time. And we found one in November. So we don't have a lot of information on it yet, but it'll be hopefully a cool show to be able to, once again, be able to meet our friends and meet old friends, make new ones, and again, to enjoy, like you said, the excitement of being together.
Hey, on that note, will there be a provision for those? Let me phrase this an entirely other way. Will you still maintain some of the virtual aspect of it for those who, still may be challenged by the coronavirus, or just who may have loved the online life and said, "Hey, I'd love to be able to attend virtually."
That's a great question, and the short answer is I don't know yet. I think we're hoping on the long term to have virtual aspects of stuff, but the one thing is, planning an in-person show is a lot of work, as you know. Planning a online show is not as much work, but that doesn't mean it's not still a lot of work. So I think if we have 1 year like the 2022 show, we'll have more bandwidth and the ability to plan two different things. So basically an in-person show, maybe with some online elements. For the November show, I don't know. We're hopefully getting at-home iteration under our belt, and then we're 100% onto November. And if we can, we certainly will. I have a feeling there may be some aspects, but I can't promise anything yet because we're still in the early stages.
How has the city of San Diego been to work with through this? Because they've always been there with you guys, and are they helping to pave the way for the future? Or what's their response?
They've been very nice about asking us if there's anything they can help with. The reality is being at home, there really isn't much that they can do. But with the November show coming up, I think everybody's trying to dust themselves off and getting back into the business really of having these open conventions. The convention center has been used as a homeless shelter during COVID and also as a refugee center. So they've done some really good work, but they are also eagerly looking forward to being able to hold conventions, which is what they do, and they do very, very well. So we're all excited to see how this goes. Everybody, I think, is cautious, but like I said, excited, and I think we're all we have good thoughts that it will go well.
Hey, has there been any thought? I'm going to guess not, but I'll just throw this out there anyway. To the possibility of being able to get vaccinated while you're at Comic Con for November or next year.
I really honestly don't know. I know there are a lot of different issues having to do with HIPAA laws. There's also a lot to do with liability issues and stuff. So I don't know. I mean, that's an interesting thought. I know that there are several businesses now that offer, not necessarily in San Diego, but across the country, I've heard and read, that offer the opportunity to vaccinate. But I don't know. San Diego had a very, very robust vaccination program. And in fact, there were several, I think what they called super vaccination destinations. So as an example, Petco Park was one where you could drive in and get vaccinated. And there was one at a big facility in Chula Vista. And there were several, and it worked really well. That's a great question. I don't know. Hopefully by this time next year, or by this time next year, this will be a memory, and we'll all be healthy and happy, and COVID will be a thing of the past.
Hey, shifting gears, something you could help us out with. I wanted to start a panel because it's been 10 years of Zenny 62, and I wanted to set up these guests and everything, and hey, have you stop by? But I realized I don't know how to do that. So for those who might be watching this, who also don't know, but were too had like me too big of an ego to admit they didn't know. How do you do that?
Pardon me. There are, as you can imagine, there are more people who want to have panels than we have space to have panels. So they have to have a variety of things. And one is, or chief among them is, they have to be, related to popular art. They have to, it's great if they have an educational component. They don't always have to, but it's great to be able to learn something. But also they have to for the most part, have a universal interest. So if people are, having a panel about certain comic book creators, certain comic book artists, certain movie makers, things like that. Those are things that typically have a wide audience and a lot of people can be interested in. Having certain company anniversaries is something we tend to not do very often. I don't think it's impossible, but it's something we don't tend to do very often because sometimes the scope is limited in that. But yeah, I have to tell you, we get so many requests for panels that oftentimes we have to say no to a great many of them.
Yeah, in my case, I wasn't thinking of a company anniversary, but I was thinking of things like the number. I was actually thinking of, like, for example, the Black panel. He has all these different, entertainers. My thought was there's so many people that I've come to know, like Lee Merriweather, high-profile people who don't have a high profile, but they're fantastic artists, that I love to have on a panel and just talk about what they've done and how Comic-Con has changed. So be more.
You can always, everybody can submit panel ideas. They go through a process of basically checking them out. You'd be surprised. Oftentimes there are a lot of people who have similar panel ideas. So those, have to be vetted as well. But, it's a very labor-intensive process, but it's a process that we enjoy doing, and we get a lot more panels than we can sadly accommodate. As many hours as we have for panels, I think somebody had once estimated over 2,000 hours or 2,000 panels. We get so many more still, and it's tough to decide, which ones we can allow and which ones we have to say no to.
Hey, how has your life changed through all this?
Well, I got to tell you, even though my job is dealing with the public, I'm really kind of I'd say kind of a little bit of I don't want to say private person, but when we were told we'd be working from home and have to stay at home, I thought, oh, you know what, that's going to be fine. I mean, I can entertain myself. That'll be great. But Zenny, I got to tell you, man, after a couple of months, I really missed the interaction of being with my friends and being online was great. Talking to them was fantastic. But boy, when this finally, we were able to finally meet our friends again in person, it was emotional, and it was really something welcome. So I'm doing fine. As you know, there are so many people who are did not weather this well. Whether it's companies who went under, or people who lost jobs, or sadly, people that we've lost through this pandemic. I consider myself lucky that my family and I have been safe through this, and most of my friends. So it's all good, and I have nothing to complain about. And I'm just glad that we can, get out again.
Yeah, same here. Is there anyone in the family that we've lost that you want to mention right now? Because that's a great point.
No, I was very lucky. Again, I think we all took the precautions very, very seriously. I think I don't know if we're a family of people who are overly cautious. My mother was incredibly protective, and I think that kind of rubbed off on a lot of us. So we really did, stay at home and washed our hands and all that stuff. And luckily, I think that worked out really well for us because, we didn't get ill. I know some people who did. Thank goodness. I think, for the most part, all of them, came through it okay. But there are people within the industry and outside who obviously didn't. And that is a very sobering thought. And I think when we talk about COVID and recollect about that, it's good to remember those people that we lost.
Yeah, I chafe at the constant videos about, well, this studio is not coming or that studio isn't coming. Can you really just set and remind people we're going through a pandemic and it's not Comic-Con collapsing? Because I saw this title like, is this spelled the end of Comic-Con? I thought, oh, come on,
Well, funny, it's interesting that you say that. There was an article that came out, I don't know, about 10 years ago from a huge news outlet. And the title was pretty much the same. It's like, is Comic-Con going to survive? Because I think this one studio pulled out, or two studios pulled out. And as we always say, not every studio comes every year. Studios and publishers and everyone is very, very savvy to the fact that you don't come to Comic-Con just to be there. You come to bring and share some very cool stuff. And if you come just to have a presence, the fans are, if it isn't very interesting, the fans aren't going to be very appreciative. So they're very smart, not always showing up just because they have to. The funny thing is, the year after that article appeared, that very studio that they said who had kind of abandoned Comic-Con came back the next year with a huge presence. So it happens every year. We're kind of used to it. And longtime fans know that Comic-Con, is a great many things to a great many different people. And hopefully it will be for many years to come.
Yeah, and I think it's important to remind people that, look, Comic-Con is so huge that, remember, Scott Pilgrim was actually born at Comic-Con, right?
Well, we had a lot of great stuff at Comic-Con, and I think one of the things that's also fun to remember is there were some properties that started at Comic-Con. There were some properties that were introduced, were able to be introduced to fans at Comic-Con. A great example of that is the original Star Wars. And there's a lot that goes on. If you like comics, if you like film, if you like television, if you like costuming, if you like gaming, whatever it happens to be, there is something there at Comic-Con, and that's what we enjoy doing, and the fans enjoy seeing.
And my to close, Godfather Media is actually Joseph Amanduras, one of our vloggers. He's disabled. I want to get him to our next Comic-Con. He says, although it's great to have Comic-Con full of people, I appreciate the stance of doing a virtual Comic-Con. Having survived COVID, I would hate anybody to struggle and contact the Delta variant. There you go.
That's very true. And I think, as we plan the November show, that's one of the things we're very, very aware of. We want to make sure that, safety is paramount to us. And even outside of the pandemic, the safety of our attendees has always been the chief priority. So it continues to be.
David, fun stuff, man.
Always good to chat with you. Can't believe it's been so long, and hopefully we'll be able to see each other in November.
Hey, live long and prosper.
May the force be with you.
May the force be with you. Hey, stick around in the backstage. Folks, we'll be back later. Subscribe to Zenny62 and bookmark oaklandnewsnow.com. That ends this broadcast. Thanks.